trying to revive it. Because I mean, can you imagine watching 1955? Like, you know, people were watching like huge, bright colored Technicolor musicals and CinemaScope westerns, and here was someone coming out with like an Academy ratio, you know, sort of silent era stylized film. And I think part of that is, you know, what made people kind of reject it. They felt that it was, you know, I think it was too early for the people being nostalgic for movies looking that way.
Yeah.
And it kind of came back where people went, oh, I've seen this before. This is old, like whatever. Like, I think it just came out in like a weird time. Whereas like if someone were to replicate, you know, sort of styles like this nowadays, you know, people I think would notice it a lot more. I mean, shit, I wasn't thinking about it like a ton, but I was remembering that Paul Schrader in First Reformed, obviously trying to do the Academy ratio compositions and everything like that, but he also uses the hymn, the leaning.
Oh, yeah.
Leaning. That's actually also sung in his film, but it's like the corporate church is the one like teaching all the kids how to sing it and everything like that, kind of sort of repurposing it in an interesting way.
Yeah.
But I think that Lawton just had a really amazing idea of like, and I wrote down his quote about it too that he said, but he had like this thing where he said, when I first went to the movies, everyone sat in their seat straight and leaned forward and was like taken in by the images. And now they slump down with their heads back and eat candy and popcorn. And he's like, I want them to sit up straight again. Yeah. So that was his goal when he made this film. Was that, you know, the way that when he was getting into movies, the way that the expressionists and silent film artists used their visuals to create this atmosphere to get you to really experience with these characters what it is that they're going through. That was what he wanted people to feel. And I think if we're judging him solely on those terms, I think he was incredibly successful with this, because you could describe this plot, I think, to someone, or, you know, I have seen people actually watch the film and find the plot just very simple, and like, especially the thriller mechanics, like when it gets into the second half, like they aren't the most, I guess, what you would call intense. I mean, he makes a lot of room for patience and sort of lyricism, and, you know, like the whole movie isn't Robert Mitchum chasing the kids down trying to strangle them. Like there's parts where the kids are just
especially
on the river.
The last third. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like there's kind of like it has a much quieter sort of climax than you would expect for a movie about a serial killer trying to make these two young children tell him where $10,000 is. Mm-hmm. And but I think that the way he captures the way that those characters feel about that experience through the visuals is what makes this stand out. Like I feel watching this film terrified, mostly because I feel locked in. I feel unable to move or control anything that's happening. Yeah. And it feels like you are being kind of hypnotized by this evil atmosphere that he's conjuring for you. It feels like you are
like such a, I mean, he does come off as like the devil or some type of like teleporting demon at certain
beyond
points.
Human, for sure.
Because he has such a drive. And, you know, there's even that awesome line that John has where you see the beautiful silhouette of him riding on the horse and singing coming towards their farm that they're staying at the time.
By the way, a shot that I don't know if you know, that was an in-camera effect. Yeah, it was an in-camera effect using forced perspective, which is nuts. To think about that. So like they basically just got like a small horse and they got like a little person and they had them ride in the distance and used force effect to make it look like, you know, he was riding along in the distance in time for the nuts.
It's so good. And then you have John wake up and just be like, does this guy never sleep? Like it just he has this
death is
non-stop powerful and there's another great moment that I loved, the cuts that he does back and forth where the mother is talking to that older woman in the community about how she needs like the kids to have a father figure and she needs a husband and a man in the house and all of that. And while she's doing that, and it seems like, you know, maybe that's a good idea, you know, some help around the house, some help with the kids, all of that. What he's doing is he's cutting to this like black night sky with a dark train just just railing towards the community. He's
He's black clouds of smoke and steam. It actually, I wasn't sure if it's a direct reference or not, but they do. Hitchcock did that same thing in the film we talked about with Adam Naiman, Shadow of a Doubt.
Oh yeah,
where the uncle comes to town and it's like this black smoke plume from the train like infecting the suburb is what the image is of. But you're right that this actually adds in cross-cutting because it cuts back to that train twice.
Yes,
which is so amazing. Where it's the conversation being like. Yeah, to just be like, they are currently talking about how maybe she should look into, having to remarrying and getting back out there and having someone providing for her. And then bam, you have just like the most evil elemental image shooting right towards her. And you're like,
full speed bullet.
Yeah, your brain does the rest. Like, it's implication and it's obvious implication, but it's incredibly stylish and you feel it. And that is like the entirety of this movie.
Yeah, he does that a lot with just different techniques. Like even the very opening of this movie, it comes in with these like huge horns and it just feels so abrasive and powerful, much like Mitchum's character. And then for every little like scene introduction or mostly character introduction, he does this like, I don't know if it's a helicopter shot or just a big crane shot that he does.
Yeah, the big overheads that he does. Yeah,
and he does it several times. He does it to introduce Mitchum's character. He does it to introduce the children that discover a dead body. He does it again when Mitchum goes from the car to the horse because he's just absolutely determined to keep going. And I loved that. It felt like he was